Good afternoon. So I'm going to read a little news article from June 2024. And this seems to let the cat out of the bag, right? Like if anyone was in any way confused about some of the antics or some of the presentation even of people who are of a particular ideological persuasion, right? We'll just say that. Then this will kind of clear it up, right? Because while there's been a war on, I would say, Western civilization, Western values, Western people, Western nations in terms of the land that they own, right? There's one aspect of it that kind of gets neglected to a large degree, and that is the war on aesthetics, right? The war on beauty, the war on natural symmetry, the war on health, essentially, okay? And so we read this. It is from a Zoe Williams, right, who has some gripes, right? So we'll have a read, and the headline is called "Getting Fit is Great, but it could turn you into a right-wing jerk," right? Obviously American. So we'll read, quote, "Okay, this is going to sound a little hypocritical, as I have hard recommended every activity and pursuit, every wellness, wheeze, and rejuvenation exercise the modern world has dreamed up. Try hot yoga, it plugs you back into your inner child. How about a morning rave? All the cardio of a regular rave, none of the ecstasy. What's not to like, right?" So she goes on about a few different exercises and things like that. So we fast forward on a couple of paragraphs. She said, quote, "But there is a dark side to wellness, which I always, for shorthand, thought of as political. Getting fit makes you more right-wing." You might remember the quote as well, actually. I think it's from Winston Churchill. Not truth can come from the mouth of the devil as well, right? But I think he said that if you're not liberal in your younger years, then you've no heart. And if you're not conservative in your older years, you've no brain, right? And that tends to follow certain patterns, that people become more conservative as they get older, right? As in theory, at least, as they gather more wisdom and as they gather more experience, and they begin to shed some youthful idealism for some mature realism in the world, right? They see how the world tends to operate, and they tend to become more conservative, right? Because you learn the things that are worth holding on to. You get done over by people, you get your heart kicked all over the place a few times, you get let down by people, you don't meet the potential at a certain period that you think you should have, or you do and you get slated for it, or whatever the case is, right? But you learn hard lessons in life, and you learn what gets you through those things, and you begin to recognize them as virtues that each person can possess, right? And each person can strive towards. So you begin to see the things that lead to a valuable existence and lead to a better experience of your life, right? Through mistakes, obviously, right? So she's suggesting that becoming fit leads you to become more conservative, right? More traditional, more family oriented, more, shall we say, grounded in reality, okay? So, yeah, she says, quote, "The mechanism is incredibly simple. You embark on this voyage of self-improvement and more or less immediately see results. Great. You feel stronger and more energetic. Probably your mood lifts, and pretty soon you think you're a master of your own destiny." What's wrong with that? You're still not, by the way. Destiny does not care about your step count. But until that fact catches up with you, which it may never, there you are, high on self-righteousness. You can tell this has happened to you when you start inhaling performatively, like the hero of an Ayn Rand novel. Inescapably, you start to situate other people's problems within their failure to be as fit as you. This is particularly true if you don't know them and they're just a bunch of numbers. All those statistics, depressed people, obese people, people with IBS, imagine how much better they would be if they just followed your example, I suppose she's going on to say, right? And you get the gist of it. But ultimately, there's two things she seems to have an issue with here, right? Well, there's a good number of things that she seems to have an issue with. One of them is the feeling of gratitude and the feeling of cracking the code, so to speak, that you get when you start to get a little bit stronger. You start to feel yourself a little bit, right? You start to nourish your body, and your body feeds back to you the impression, the feeling, the evaluation of yourself that I am capable, right? Because your body talks to you, and when your body is working as it wishes to work, and you're using your muscles for what they're designed for, right? That bleeds into your overall assessment of yourself, okay? So you start to see, okay, I can make goals, I can do this workout, whatever it is, 2-3 times a week. I'm recognizing that I'm after breaking through a threshold, and I need to increase the length of the workout, or increase the resistance of the workout, or whatever it is, right? I'm setting goals, accomplishing them, seeing myself getting better, feeling myself getting better, and overall my assessment of myself is far more positive than it was before I engaged in this pursuit. Naturally, as people, good-hearted as people tend to be, generally, most people are grand, if not a little weak, but that's fine. You can work on that, right? I don't mean weak physically, I mean weak morally. But you can work on this stuff, right? So naturally, when you see something that works and benefits you, you wish to share it with people, right? You want to share it with people. I feel better, I look better, I'm sleeping better, my mind is clearer, my body's relaxed, and poised and ready to engage in whatever it is, right? So overall, I feel like I'm a better person than I was when I was making worse decisions for myself, right? But she's an issue with this, because she doesn't do these things, obviously, right? Or she doesn't feel good about herself, I would imagine, right? And so she has an issue with people that go around spreading that, right? So she has an issue with people who have climbed a few rungs in their process, right? And now they're reflecting back on themselves and going, well, I was miserable a while ago, and now I'm not. What changed? I changed. I made different decisions. Therefore, if other people made different decisions, better decisions for themselves, they would climb the rungs as well, right? They'd get it back up the ladder and start moving again. But she's a problem with this, right? And she believes that this desire for self-improvement and the achievement of self-improvement, right? The improvement of your journey towards being the best you can be on any given day. This is inherently a political thing to her, and it makes you a right-wing jerk, right? And the second thing that I want to highlight is, I'll quote from her again, right? So, quote, this is particularly true if you don't know them and they're just a bunch of numbers. All those statistics, depressed people, obese people, people with IBS, imagine how much better they'd be if they'd follow your example, sort of thing, right? So the idea that there is any sort of any sort of personal responsibility involved in the disabilities you might have, or in some of the ailments you might have, things you suffer with, right? So weight fluctuation, excess weight, digestive issues, skin issues, all that sort of a thing, right? So she's suggesting that it's politically a faux pas, right? Or you fall on the wrong side of the political spectrum if you begin to espouse or assert that people are responsible for the things they suffer with in their lives, right? And the examples she gives here are things that are absolutely cleared up with a little bit of movement in the right direction, right? Some more positive choices that you make in the world, right? But look, we wrap it on that, because these things are a dime a dozen, right? But they're just funny. They're just funny, and it's sad, really, because you're dealing with people who are perpetual children, right? Perpetual children who avoid adult responsibility, but wish to reap all the benefits of being an adult without accepting that responsibility, okay? And it's not positive, it's not healthy to be telling people that your depression is totally unavoidable. It's just your genetics, and you just go to the doctor and they'll sort it for you, right? That's not good stuff. That gets no one well. That helps nobody long term, right? And it's a becoming overly familiar and overly accepting of being a sufferer in life, right? Why always happen to me sort of an attitude, right? Not because of the choices you make, right? But they are, as we know. And so ultimately, and you've seen this across the media, you've seen it in nearly every single ad, you see it in nearly everywhere you look, right? The body positivity stuff, which is don't try and strive to be better for yourself or for anybody, right? Because you should just accept the fact that you are desperately unhealthy, if you are, right? And everyone else should accept that as well. And there should be no pressure put on you to get healthy, because you live your life, hon, right? And whatever happens to you, or whatever negative impact your negative decisions might have on other people, who cares? YOLO, right? Live, laugh, love, and all these empty nonsense things, right? But you can see that the war, part of the war and part of the attack, is on aesthetics, right? It's on getting healthy. And if you look at European history, right, we always had the stories of the heroes who are the best versions of men that they could be, given their own natures, right? And sculpture was always the perfection and the symmetry of the male form, right? Or even the female form, right? We were never sculpting out these grotesque, deformed physicalities, right? Or physiognomies, right? We were sculpting what we seen to be, or what we held to be, a perfected nature, right? And there is nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with striving for that, unless you're someone who is of this sort of persuasion, right? But these people's time has gone. I think we're in the wake of this now, burying this sort of anti-human, anti-health, anti-aesthetics, anti-natural sort of perspective, and I applaud it, right? Because life is difficult enough without making it even more difficult for yourself and accepting these cul-de-sac ideologies that lead nowhere but to an early grave, right? So enjoy the day, bit of sun there, so take it.